Hey, what is going on, YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day here. We've got a fun one for you guys here in today's video. You guys are about to witness what will probably be the most rare kraken I have ever received in World of Warships Legends. The Gneisenau, the supposed terror at tier 6, and probably one of my least favorite ships in the game. On paper, this ship should be incredibly strong. Powerful 15-inch guns with decent AP, and by all accounts that were relatively accurate in real life, and of course we know that is not so true in this game. A decent complement of secondaries, a good armor scheme that supports brawling, as well as a complement of torpedoes to help you even further in that brawling regard. However, when it comes to the in-game performance of the German battleships, not necessarily the battle cruisers, I think the battle cruisers are actually very good and do a lot better than the battleships. It just seems like their superstructure eats a good amount of damage. The torpedoes get destroyed far too often before you can use them, and you really never have a team to support that brawling nature. However, in certain situations, such as this one, if you can get this ship into the right spot, she is absolutely glorious. Now, before we get into the action-packed brawling that this game develops into, I wanted to mention something very briefly here. For this particular game, I was taking out a Tech Tree Tier 6 ship as to highlight the differences between the tiers of your potential credit earnings, as I have a video talking about maximizing your credit earnings coming up later in the week. And despite us playing this game a little bit more aggressively than I typically would, we still managed to fulfill the roles that a battleship is meant to fill. We dished out damage, we attracted damage, and we essentially supported our team in creating crossfires and put our ship in a position that was a thorn in the side of the enemy. And the only reason I bring this up is because in yesterday's video, where we ran a triple cruiser division and made a rather aggressive push, we had a very uninformed comment state that I said you could never do that. Now, of course, if you remove critical thinking from these statements that I have made in my tactics videos talking about how to improve yourself as a player, then yes, you might infer that I stated you could never run a triple cruiser division. When in reality, what I said is running a triple cruiser battleship destroyer division typically just lowers your chances of success, especially when you have no idea what you're doing. If you guys want to go out and run a triple cruiser battleship destroyer division, by all means do so. But when you do, still try to fulfill the roles that those ships require. And this game is a perfect example of the application of what I'm talking about. In this game, all I wanted to do was go in and brawl and use my secondaries and try to highlight that performing better is going to net you more credits. And while my overall goal wasn't really to get a Kraken, by simply playing and putting my ship in a decent position, while albeit it's rather aggressive, we still managed to fulfill that goal. As you guys can see right now, we have isolated ourselves from other targets. If I wanted just to push in and perform poorly, I could go around that island there and get clobbered by the 5 or 6 ships that have managed to poorly position themselves behind that island. In the meantime, though, we are paying attention to the destroyer in front of us, putting torpedoes on target on that battleship behind us, and simultaneously shooting the cruiser in the back there who gets away with murder, because that is just how the Gneisenau plays. Now here, I'm not gonna lie, this is not a superb spot, this is not textbook position, but as a result of our push and poor situational awareness by this Kunaberti here, he has put himself in a very precarious situation. So if we can manage to dodge his torpedoes and get a few salvos on target, we will have managed to help attract a good bit of damage and eliminate the destroyer on the enemy team. To finish off this topic though, as this uninformed commenter with pretty low critical thinking skills doesn't really deserve more than 12 seconds of my attention, I want you to compare and contrast the different scores between my Gneisenau and a friendly Gneisenau that manages to preserve a good portion of his health for the entire game. But with that being said, that is kill number 1. Now, unfortunately, we still had the high explosive loaded as that destroyer was closing in on us, and we managed to get one shatter on that Colorado, and he was already on a permanent fire, I believe, from someone else. But our Massachusetts actually managed to get that kill as well. So because of our push and our position, we have managed to do a little bit of damage, but on top of that, we managed to catch the destroyer and fulfill our role of shooting at destroyers, which is your responsibility at most times in this game. On top of that, we are now sort of a blockade here, preventing that Nagato and that AL New Jersey from pushing in on the rest of our team, which has managed to position pretty poorly behind that island here. Now, despite a little aggressive push there and managing to sort of get this inside position here, which is preventing them from pushing, our team has managed to ruin that advantage by all grouping up on the south side of this island here, with our closest ship to the other flank being in our base. So they completely gave up the left side, ruining any sort of crossfires that we have created. However, this Nagato is deciding that he wants to go around this corner, and this is sort of when player instinct, comes into play. Normally, most players would have already launched their torpedoes. However, we are sort of waiting for this Nagato to commit. Now, I should have put these just a hair short, and the reason you guys sometimes see me put these torpedoes short is for this exact reason right here. We take a shot, a rather poorly aimed shot, mind you, at this Nagato, and that is when he realizes we are in the middle here and we have torpedoes. So whether or not he knew that we have torpedoes or what his intentions were, he decided to turn in, causing 2 of our torpedoes to miss. However, we know that we can overmatch his bow, so we're going to take a nice aim shot at the front nose of his ship and just put it right on through for our first and beautiful citadel of the game. So in a rather mediocre game, if the game were to end right now, we've managed 2 kills, an assist on 1, and a good bit of attracted damage for our team. Seeing that we had pretty low health, and this was a carrier game that we mentioned, I didn't really want to get focused and singled out by this carrier. So I decided to push back to our team, and really this is where you could make arguments that it could have been more beneficial to go around the north side of that island there on the opposite end and push them from that angle. We could have potentially gotten that AL New Jersey as well as the Algier there, which was really low. However, I decided to push back this way. Because of those pesky carriers, I needed the AA support and AA bubble that numerous ships tend to provide. Now, in certain games or certain situations, you can form groups like this, but as you guys will see at the end result here, it's typically not a great idea to group up as many ships like we did. I would also take note that it is never a good idea to put your carrier or allow your carrier to be put in a massive crossfire from the enemy that our battleships have sort of allowed on that left flank there. And as you can see, the York and the Zeton, I believe, were taking full advantage of that opportunity, shooting at our Graf Zeppelin. And yeah, there's not much he can do about it. He's sort of getting focused by the carrier. Our destroyer doesn't really have a good flank. The destroyer actually made a smart move towards the end here, but with those bomb drops from the Lexington on the Graf Zeppelin, we are now down a carrier and a good bit of points in return. And as you can see, despite us having pretty good advantages here, our Massachusetts is low as well. And yeah, the game, it's not looking great in terms of a position advantage. It would have been nice to get more than 2 overpins and 1 shatter, and that's just what I was talking about in the beginning. These guns need to perform so much better, considering that you only have 6 of them, and I believe they have some of the worst accuracy in the game, or at least it feels like it. Anytime you only have 6 guns, it's going to feel like you have very poor accuracy, considering that 2 of those guns are in the rear there. Anytime you don't get a good bit or a good connection with those guns and you get an overpin, you're going to feel like you want to be in any other ship. You can call it Russian wargaming bias, but I feel like the German battleships should just be so much stronger than they are in the game. The Bismarck basically took on half of the British Navy, and the only reason it sank is because the Germans didn't want it to fall into the British hands and ended up scuttling it. Now, of course, it would have eventually sank, by the sheer amount of volume that was thrown at it, but considering that it is typically one of the first ships to go down in a Tier 7 or Tier 8 lobby, yeah, it just seems a little unsettling to me, to say the least. But with a good connection of torpedoes, a good flank by that Jaeger there, we managed to cheese kill number 4 there On our way to a pretty decent game in the Gneisenau, considering that we were up-tiered. And there is the other Gneisenau that I was talking about. And while, yes, I have done now 2 laps around this island, you can see that we have utilized our health, we have dished out damage, and we have, while a few of them have been kill secures in that sense, we have managed to get a good bit of kills. And then you contrast that to the Gneisenau, which has full health and a rather close game, who is kiting away from the ships moving in on our base, and it provides the perfect parallel and example to the points that we were talking about earlier. You can go out and play whatever ship you like and prefer. You can do so in a triple division, but you still have a role to fulfill in that game. And no, this game isn't life or death. It doesn't really matter if you win or lose, but considering that there are typically other players on your team, a little bit of sportsmanship I feel like would be in play. But we're going to leave this one to the final moments here as we get a nice little finishing touch to get the Kraken here, as well as a Confederate. No high caliber, unfortunately, but I felt like we got a little bit trolled, and that's just how the Gneisenau is. One of my most hated ships, as we mentioned here. But that is going to do it for this one, guys. Let me know what you guys thought. Did you enjoy this one? Did you not? Do you possess critical thinking skills? Well, if you don't and you're in my comments, and you comment something silly, get absolutely bent, mate. I love you guys. Have a great day. Aaron, the Elitist, signing off.
Stationen, brauche Feuerunterstützung. Katapultjäger in der Luft. Das gegnerische Team hat die Führung übernommen. Gegnerischer Kreuzer gesunken.